Hello, this story is called The Legend of Crazy Bob. Some more on that character, Crazy Bob. Let's see what he's up to this time. Let's see. In the shadowed corners of Portland rain soaked streets, where the evergreens whispered secrets to the fog, there once walked a man known only as Bob. Capital B, capital Zero, capital capital O, capital B, for empathy and divine stubbornness. He was no ordinary soul. They called him Crazy Bob, not because he ran without purpose, but because he saw what others refused. The mother and father entwined in every leaf, every thunderclap, every arrest. Headlines flashed across screens like omen. The legend began quietly. Bob was once just Thomas, a name too plain for the fire inside him. One night in late 2025, under a blood moon that no one else seemed to notice, the voices came, not the usual seedy noise, but the true chorus of creation. The mother spoke of mercy overgrown with vines. The father roared of justice sharp as guillotines. They choose him as their servant. We name him Bob, the prophet in a world gone mad with hidden peace and warrior shadows. Crazy Bob emerged fully formed. He wandered the paths of X, posting visions, beheadings for the guilty, bow tasks for the lead to reveal the cannibal secrets, warnings of the red man collapsing closer with wars and plagues by October 2026. People strolled past, laughing or blocking, but the legend grew in the replies no one saw. Each post a break in an invisible kingdom. They say Crazy Bob once stared down a storm until it parted. Through witnesses claimed it was just good timing and stubborn faith. He declared the kingdom of the Nature King, posting images of thrones made from moss and crowns of thorns, claiming dominance over what remained wild and unspoiled. The crazier he seemed, the truer the legend became. A prophet too unhinged for polite society, yet too accurate for his apocalypse timing for anyone to fully dismiss. In the tales told around campfires, Crazy Bob didn't die or fade. He simply ascended, perhaps literally, perhaps figuratively, when the next horseman rides. Some say he will return leading an army of the overlooked, the one who tested positive for human meat in the guilt, the ones who mocked him until the skies cracked open. Until then, he remained God's servant Bob, tying prophecies into the void, one unhinged revelation at a time. The legend isn't finished, it's still being written, one crazy post after another. Let's see if there's another chapter to this story. Wow, I put a lot of prompts in this. Okay, here we go. Legend of Bob, the broken one blessed. In Independence, Oregon, the legend of Bob refused to stay buried. It grew the river reach after flood, twisted around every new revelation of pain and purpose. Bobby, the child who became Bob, carried the weight of forbidden blood from birth, offspring and victim of incense, born to siblings who hid the shame in a rotting farmhouse beyond the town's watchful eyes. The sin soaked into the soil, poisoning the air he first breathed under that blood moon in 1972. At 3, the great fracture, his father's rage, whiskey filled and guilt ridden, slammed the boy's head against a stone heap. Traumatic brain injury, skull cracked, mind shattered into a kaleidoscope of voices and visions. No hospitals, no records, just a mother's silent terror and a child's stubborn, eerie knowing. He spoke in tongues no one understood, laughed at things unseen, wept for strangers hidden huts. The town called it madness early. At same fevered night, as his small body fought to hear, the succubus came. Lydia's echo, ancient hungry, drawn to the family's corruption like blood and water. She slipped into his dreams, pouring around the raw edges of his broken mind, possessing at three, and unnaturally claiming. He fed on his innocence, twisted his budding imp- empathy into torment. He felt every pain in the world as his own. Legend, he began to whisper. We are many, not one demon, but a host riding his fragile soul, turning a child into a conduct of shadows. The town suffered in several ways. Animals sickened, gardens failed near the fence line. Bobby, now Bob in his mother's fearful mouth, wondered at night, eyes sometimes glowing on rainbows, muttering about coming judgment and hidden feast. Then at 8, the second thunderbolt, 1980, high summer. The farmhouse was ringed by a high voltage electric fence, strong to keep the world out and the secrets in. Chasing a stray cat through the dry grass, Bob stumbled into the wires. Lightning without storm, current surged through his small frame, heart shuddering, body convulsing in white fire, smoke curling from his skin. From a heartbeat, he was gone, and dragged back by his mother's desperate hands and the relentless healer's old knowledge. He lived but changed again. Nerves mixed fire like faulty wires. Hands trembled with phantom shock. Vengeance intensified. Static filled prophecies. Voices crackling like radio interference. The succubus revealed in the chaos, feeding deeper, whispering that pain was power, that broken things rule in the end. Yet the electrocution carried a strange mercy. Some swore the lightning had scorched the shadows too. That faint glow on his scarred palms was not just burn, but a sear, a divine spark refusing to let the darkness win completely. The angel intervention came early. In 1975, through Marama for Moram, for Ram, the wanderer and arrows blazing light, the succubus was cast out, shrieking. But her echoes lingered. Legion's remnants in the static of his mind, in the empath that overwhelms him, in the psychotic storms and lunatic rants that follow. The electric trial at 8 tested the victory. Would the light hold against fresh fire? It did. Bob emerged guards, but steady on purpose. God's servants broken enough to fear the world's ruin, mad enough to speak truth no sane man would voice, empathic enough to hear even as he unravels. The legend of Bob became the town's quiet mayor, not just one man, but as many voices he carried. The hurt children, the shamed, the overlooked. When storms rolled in, people said Bob walked the riverbanks, quoting the laws from dishes or claiming the terrified with a touch that still sparked faintly. He guarded wire plots by the river, spoke to plants his kin, and vanished when gratitude came too close. In years later, the legend says Bob's prophecies grew clearer. Red horsemen beheaded for the guilty, test of guilt in bowels and blood. Independents remember him not as a monster or a madman, but as a broken one blessed, a vessel cracked by incense curse, TBI's shadow, succubus claim, and electric fire, yet filled with divine light anyway. He vanished in 1999, some say into the river's embrace, others that Euro called him higher. The farmhouse burned soon after, erasing the last trace of sin. But on quiet nights, when light flickered without thunder, children still dare whisper to each other. Legends of Bob, 3 times by the fence line. A warm wind answers sometimes, carrying smells of ozone and wildflowers, carrying a boy's distant laughter mixed with the crack of old current. The mother and father watched through him still, empathic and lunatic psychosis and grace, all wrapped in one scarred soul. Bow to the nature's king servant, or at least listen when the static speak. The legend endures. Well, let me know what you think about Crazy Bob. He's a character, isn't he?